Jeffrey Epstein's crimes shocked the world, but the scale of his influence raised a different and more troubling question. How deeply was he embedded in powerful systems? Public attention often focuses on collapse, companies destroyed, institutions ruined. Yet Epstein did not operate global corporations or hold public office. His power worked differently. It flowed through access, money, and proximity to decision makers. For years after his 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor, Epstein continued to donate to academic institutions, advise wealthy individuals, and maintain elite social ties. This was not a failure of secrecy alone, but of judgment. If Epstein was a known offender, why was he still welcomed? The answer lies in institutional inertia. Donations were accepted, meetings continued. Background checks were minimal or bypassed entirely. Epstein's wealth and connections offered credibility, even as warning signs accumulated. When Epstein was arrested again in 2019, the reaction was swift, but reactive. Institutions launched investigations only after public exposure forced them to act. The reckoning was delayed, not denied. Was the damage caused by Epstein or by the silence around him? The Epstein case is not only about one man's crimes. It is about how systems designed to manage risk repeatedly failed to do so. The damage cannot be measured solely in legal outcomes, but in years of ignored responsibility. When Epstein's network came into focus, attention turned to the institutions that had accepted his money or maintained relationships with him. These organizations did not collapse, but many were forced into public reckoning. Universities including MIT and Harvard acknowledged receiving Epstein-linked donations after his conviction. Investigations revealed that some contributions were rooted indirectly, shielding them from public scrutiny. Senior administrators resigned, and institutional reforms followed. How do elite institutions miss what the public eventually sees? Financial institutions faced legal consequences. Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank were sued for allegedly failing to act on internal warnings while continuing to process Epstein's transactions. Both later paid large settlements without admitting wrongdoing. Retail brands were also scrutinized. Epstein's close association with Les Wexner, founder of Victoria's Secret and L Brands, raised questions about influence and oversight. While the companies survived, public trust was damaged. Why do institutions endure when individuals fall? Large organizations are structurally resilient. Leadership can be replaced. Policies can be rewritten. Settlements can be paid. Survival, however, does not equal accountability. Epstein's impact exposed how institutions absorb scandal and how reputational damage becomes the primary cost. The most immediate consequences of Epstein's exposure were personal. Careers ended not through convictions, but through association. University leaders resigned after revelations about fundraising decisions. Banking executives stepped down amid regulatory scrutiny. Public officials distanced themselves as investigations unfolded. In many cases, no criminal charges were filed. Legal guilt was never established. Can a career end without a crime? Yes, because reputation operates independently of the justice system. Boards act to protect institutions. Public trust erodes quickly, association becomes liability. For some, the damage was irreversible. Influence diminished, public roles vanished. Others survived with altered careers and reduced visibility. Where does responsibility begin and where does it end? The Epstein case demonstrated that silence, tolerance, or benefit can carry consequences long after legality is assessed. Careers were not destroyed equally, but proximity mattered. This was not mass punishment. It was selective fallout, shaped by visibility and perceived complicity. Epstein's financial power was hidden behind a web of private entities. Unlike traditional businesses, his companies were primarily shell corporations and trusts. Entities such as Financial Trust Company, Southern Trust, and multiple limited liability companies existed to manage assets and obscure ownership. These structures are legal and commonly used by the wealthy. What distinguished Epstein's network was its scale and opacity. How much power can exist without visibility? Private islands, aircraft, and residences were held through layered ownership. Funds moved through intermediaries. Oversight was limited. After Epstein's arrest, this structure unraveled quickly. Assets were frozen. Trusts were examined. Companies were dissolved or seized. What happens to secrecy when scrutiny arrives? These entities had no public mission, no workforce, and no reason to survive without Epstein. When he fell, they disappeared. The collapse of his financial network revealed how fragile hidden power becomes when transparency is forced.